Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We would be visiting on Radio Row, but instead we're Zooming this year. Dave Meltzer is back. Dave, how are you, man?
You know, I'm mixed in my emotions. Number one, you are and hold a special place in my heart. Extraordinary friend, also business person who I invest in and will continue to invest in with Sided and other things that you're doing. But there's something about not being at the Super Bowl that hit me about not being at the Masters. 20 some years I've been going, originally with my clients at Leigh Steinberg, following them around and following Leigh around, getting interviewed, to begging to get on the Scott and BR show years ago. Hey man, I wrote a book. Please, will you help me? And you were always so gracious to me. To now, the tables have turned on so many that people with the podcast and the TV show and all the other things I do, it's so much fun to return the favor to so many great people like yourself that have always been a friend, but also just believing in you by your actions, not by anything else. You know what, always dude? Treated me that way.
Thank you. You want to know something? I'll tell you something. Sometimes when you come on the show, things you say resonate with me, with people who are listening. I remember one time when we were broadcasting from Callaway Golf, and my friend Anthony Idol, the pro wrestler, was standing in the corner, and you were talking, and the dude started crying, man. Tears were rolling down his face because whatever you were saying was resonating with him. You just said something to me. What's interesting about that is I have a friend of mine. I'm not going to say a name, otherwise Browner will start teeing off on the guy. But I have a friend of mine who went from being a guy who always would ask to come on the show, and we would always help, and we'd always want to promote. And now he's become a monster success on YouTube. And if you ask, say, hey man, could you give me a hand on something? There's no reciprocation. None. And I think that's so not cool, dude.
I agree. And I think people are who they are. The truth always comes out. And in the end, those people will be where they are and you will be where you are. It's just a matter of time. Everything happens at the right place at the perfect time. But your shows have always been inspirational for me. It's really funny because I am, distributed around the world now with the shows that I have. But it's funny, I go on your show still today, and when there's an engagement because I get the most comments. People love Scott Kaplan. They love when you and I are together. And part of the reason they love when we're together is, we let the truth come out, for each of us, how screwed up we are, what we're working on, and what we're here to help other people work on as well.
Well, tell me this. Because I want everybody to understand, when you wrote Connected to Goodness years ago, I loved that book. A lot of things in that book, again, resonated with me. I've passed that on. I've paid that book forward. You've written a lot of other books since. But you're like, again, whether it's, massive amounts of followers on social media or TV shows, you're just seeming to be everywhere. Tell me about the TV shows you have going on right now. Browner, Alex, I don't know if you guys are catching Dave on all of his different TV projects, but Dave, tell us what you're doing.
So bless, I'm on the 6th season of Elevator Pitch, which I produced with Entrepreneur Magazine. And that was kind of a Shark Tank with soul is the way that I talked about it. I tried to make it a positive funding show. But what would always bother me about Shark Tank, Elevator Pitch, and Dragon's Den, which is Canada's version, is that funding side of the business show was a facade. I mean, you've raised money, Scott. You know what that's really like. It's not like the show portrays it to be. So I wanted to do a show that was about something could really help people, which is the pitch. And I'm actually a really good pitch person. I know the inside, the structure, the emotional side, the quantitative analysis side. And so I wanted to teach people, and I wanted to give big prizes. So we have $50,000 of cash and prizes every episode to the winner of the pitch. There's no funding. There's no talking about valuations or vetting a company in 5 minutes, which is literally impossible. You know how long it takes someone to vet Sided before. It's not going to take 5 minutes with Mark Cuban to figure it out. It's just TV. So I created 2-minute drill, got picked up by Bloomberg Television. It's on Amazon Prime. And then I have a few movies out there. Impact is a coaching movie. I just got picked up with a big network. The show's called The Coach. So that'll be coming out in August. And I'm a business coach around the world. So that's going to be really fun. I'm in Beyond the Secret, the movie, and Think and Grow Rich, the legacy movie, which ironically are two books that changed my life. And now the sequels, I've elevated my own brand and my knowledge to where they included me in those movies, which are on Netflix. So, my life has been cited and of course collided, and our relationship has grown, as you know, even to the point we're old enough where our children who are in college are friends, which just shows you how the world comes together. And your son is one of my daughter's best friends.
Yeah, isn't that cool? This is Dave Meltzer, who joins us every year at the Super Bowl. Dave's on the show many more times during the year when he's available and when all of our schedules meet up. But yeah, it is cool how this relationship all started, which, by the way, this is where let's bring it home here for a second. Dave's from San Diego. Dave's a monster Charger fan growing up. Dave is a regular Scott and BR listener back in the day, especially during the heyday of the Chargers, which, by the way, makes me so sad what's happening with Marty Schottenheimer right now. I absolutely loved this man, and I'm very sad about it. And Dave, I'm curious because you lived, as I remember growing up, you were out in the college area, so you would have to take the 8 freeway to get out that way. And getting to the 8 and getting to where the 15 is and getting to where Qualcomm Stadium is, my question to you is, have you seen what is going on at Qualcomm Stadium?
I have, and I've seen videos. The first video someone sent me, because I didn't know what was going on, was the piece by piece dismantling, and I started to cry. I literally, but I just had my birthday, January 11th, and my team here at my company bought me 4 seats. My lucky number is 11, born January 11th, 111. So I have 4 seats from, I call it Jack Murphy Stadium, but from Qualcomm, and those will be sitting in my studio. It breaks my heart. I used to go the back way through Mission Gorge, by the way. So, stayed off the 8 freeway to get to the stadium, going back by, not to date myself, Smokey's Bar back there on that back road. Anyway, things change, and it's going to be really interesting, the development that happens. And I know it's going to be good for San Diego State, though.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what's happening down there. David Meltzer is here. You see David Meltzer on Instagram or on Twitter or on television. Now he's got movies. He's published all these books. It's great to have Dave back on the show. So we started all of this. Alex and Browner, we started talking about this yesterday. This is Super Bowl week. None of us are having much FOMO right now because none of us wanted to travel to Tampa. Nobody wanted to get on a plane. Nobody wanted to be amongst a crowd. Last night, guys, I talked to our friend Howie Deneroff from Westwood One. He's like, dude, it's dead here. It's dead. It's empty. He said, it took me 7 minutes to get from one side of Tampa to the other side of Tampa. He said, and last year in Miami, if I was just trying to go side to side, he goes, it would have taken me 2 hours and 7 minutes. He goes, there's nobody here. So, Dave, the three of us, and Brown or Alex, I don't want to speak for you guys. You guys jump in. I mean, none of us are having much Super Bowl FOMO. Seems like, go ahead, Brown.
Because I think we've all taken the same approach that the people who also didn't show up to the Super Bowl, similar to you, Dave, because I'm assuming you're not there either. This is the one to miss. Like, it's okay. Like you're going to save some lives by watching from your couch this year. And that's okay. And the interesting part about it, and I can't wait to hear Dave's take on this as well. A lot of advertisers are saying no thank you as well this year. And it wasn't that they wanted to put a message from their company to wash your hands or social distance. They just said no thanks. Like, we're not going to do it this year. And so the financial side of it, people aren't showing up either. So, I mean, I take my hat off to the NFL for completing a season and being 2 days away from getting to the Super Bowl. No one gets a haircut. But look where we're at, man. This is a one to miss.
What do you say, Dave?
I have JOMO as well, which is the joy of missing out. And there's some aspects that Browner touched on that are so important. One, don't you guys think that when you go to the Super Bowl, if it wasn't for the people, meaning I go there because everybody's packed in and I can get so many relationships strengthen while even Scott and I see each other all the time. We I have a home in San Diego, a home in Orange County. So I'm driving by Scott all the time. He comes to my beach house, but there's something different about, the 2 hours we spend standing at the bar talking or the hour having an interview there. Those relationships with everyone packed in, but it's expensive and it's really difficult. Logistically, I've been to every sporting event there is. I know, Scott, you've been to most of them as well. Logistically, the Super Bowl sucks. Anyone that's been in the Miami Super Bowl, that Minnesota freezing Super Bowl, it just sucks. And everything's 3 to 5 times as expensive. I hate to be the frugal David Meltzer that everybody knows. I don't want to pay $600 for a hotel room that sucks. You know what I mean? I really don't. I had a hotel room in Tampa one Super Bowl. I had guests staying with me. People drove up and said, there's no way Dave Meltzer and his wife are staying here. And the price was $700 a night. And it was literally like the Cockroach Motel. So I have JOMO right now, except for one thing. And that's that, running into someone you haven't seen since the last Super Bowl, reaffirming that bond, that experience with them. Besides that, everything, and I think the NFL is going to benefit because I think more people are going to watch it than ever. I think people are looking for things, good content. The Super Bowl is great content. And I think besides the 65,000 seats, which they're going to have, I think 25 of them filled. Besides that, you're going to have an extraordinary TV viewing that is going to be beneficial to a lot of people.
Dave, a year ago, I don't know if you remember this, we were at Super Bowl Miami. Well, the three of us were. We were not Kaplan and Crew. We were still Scott and BR, but we were a podcast. That's it. We were not on radio. We weren't really anywhere. So I think, I don't know if you know this, there's 35 podcasts at Radio Row this year, and that's it. So for us, I know Scott's pissed about it because he was trying to call it Podcast Row all year last year because we were the only single podcast there. We were the only non-radio affiliate. Because we're not affiliated there. And now this year, it's all podcasts. You're on television. You're doing all this stuff, writing books, but yet you still have a podcast. It airs tonight, 6:00 on 1090. Why? Why is podcasting so important? And I mean, everyone has one. Even if you're in sports, in business, everyone has a podcast. Why do you think it's so important?
Because it's radio on demand. I think what makes it so incredible, it's why Clubhouse is going to be so popular and so successful, is that becomes the new live podcast and you can have live masterminds as well. But podcasting has low barrier of entry, huge accessibility. I know no one more than Scott knows how bandwidth works within the radio station, how difficult it is to send your signal from Baja, Mexico to Ventura County. Well, with a podcast, with a very low barrier of entry, you have 4.6 billion potential listeners. And in the advertising game and marketing game, remember the old school days where every radio station, Gal was the best at it, right? This is how many listeners we have. So what now? As a podcaster, I got 4.6 billion listeners. Now, who's actually engaging is also interesting because with podcasting, it's a lot easier to show your downloads, to show people that have taken the time, effort, et cetera, that subscribe to you. So I think there's a lot of great aspects of having a podcast. It'll continue to grow. You know me, I'm into the picks and axes, Alex. So I started a podcast agency about 2 years ago, and that makes more money than my podcast.
Dave Meltzer is here. What's interesting about this is though, because you're a San Diegan and because you're a 1090 fan and because you can get it up in Orange County crystal clear, taking your podcast and airing it on the radio. What I love about this, you're doing it. Danny Woodhead and Matt Slauson are airing their podcast on 1090. That's what we do. Bert and Browner are doing it. We're still trying to get the grumpy old men, but they're just a pain in the ass. At least one of them is. The point is, Dave, is to utilize radio now as an additional distribution platform, and by the way, really an important distribution platform, at least for us, because that's where we came from. But to utilize radio, again, not as your primary source per se, but as just yet another Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Apple Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Radio is just one of them. So I love what you're doing as well in terms of utilizing radio to air your podcast.
No doubt. Well, it stems from what I call the Shakespearean stage theory, which is gave me a leg up early on because I had more experience than a lot of the podcasters when I got involved. And here's the idea. What if I have an interesting life? I have interesting concepts. What if I captured it, modified it for all different places, radio, TV, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reels, Clubhouse, whatever I can modify it to, then amplify it through those channels with all the relationship capital that I built. And then here's what's really interesting. You also have an aspect of perpetual binge watching with podcasting. So, think about, I wish I could go back and listen to every episode of Scott and BR. Right. I could just binge listen to as I was driving on the 8 freeway as a young, even in college, playing football in college, driving up to Occidental College for my average Division III football career. I love listening to you guys. Right. And so it's just amazing that we can perpetually monetize our content. And I think if you take those 4 steps, radio is a key aspect to it because the audience that listens to radio are unaffected. You can actually have more impact. I'm surprised you don't have more sponsors back there, especially in the financial services industry. Because if I was advertising, to create estate planning, IULs and high money stuff, and I want some rich 70-year-olds that bought a beach property 20 years ago in South Mission that's now worth 10 million, I'd be advertising on radio because those old guys are still sitting there on the toilet listening to the radio.
Listen, you've painted quite a picture, frankly, but it is true. I mean, the radio listener is the older listener. The person who watches on Facebook or on YouTube or listens on podcast is probably the younger person. And so actually financial services is a really good place for us to be going because what's interesting about it is we do this all the time. We show the metrics. These are the exact numbers of people that are downloading. This is where they're from. This is how old they are. There's so much more information and data available through Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and everything else. You can actually show the advertiser, here's the deal. Not hey, here's what the ratings say on radio, but we really don't know because there's 1,200 meters and there's 2.5 million people. There's really the data in radio is not as good. But on the other hand, the thing about radio is, who the audience is, who you're targeting, and that it reaches them. So it still works.
But Cited, for example, what I like about that is it applies to all the different platforms to create a conversation that you actually can engage with someone, pull someone, vote, win prizes, all these fun aspects, gamification. It really, and this is why I invested in the company, besides believing in the jockey, even though you're the biggest Jewish jockey I've ever met. Beyond that, the business is a tag along business, meaning no matter what the new platform is, Cited can continue the conversation in a more engaged way. And also it's downloaded, tracked, the audience, and it has a different audience, but also a very valuable audience for where sports business is going and what's really valuable to casinos and fantasy, and the high paying data people out there are looking to companies like Cited to provide them the data and information that they need.
Yeah. And really, when it comes to that data, other companies, Facebook and, Twitter, et cetera, they monetize all of the user's data. Our goal is to eventually explain to the user, when you let us use your data or when you're willing to share it with an advertising partner, you actually get paid money. You should be paid as a user if your data is going to be collected. And if a company is going to look through your data, you should actually get paid for that. Your data is like your real estate.
Yeah. And your content as well. Right. And that's where companies like Clubhouse and other people are going to start paying the individuals for what they do.
You talk about Clubhouse on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're doing our first Clubhouse, I guess, hangout session or whatever. And we're actually going to talk about a lot of the content that's on Cited. We're also opening it up to Cited users or listeners who want to contribute their thoughts, their opinions, things that they would like to have done for the platform. So we're going to start using Clubhouse as, a great way to communicate with the people who are using our platform.
Well, come on with me. Friday's my big day on Clubhouse. So we have one of the biggest shows called Breakfast of Champions. I go on at 6 a.m. Pacific time, which is the last hour for that show. And then at 11:30 a.m., I do a Q&A every Friday after my training. So I'd love to promote people over to the 1 o'clock from my audience over to yours.
Oh, dude, that would be really helpful. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. So, all right. So that's it. None of us are at the Super Bowl. But it's
we saved a bunch of money, man.
Yeah, but it's amazing. Yesterday we had on Kyle Turley, and it's the same deal. We have a rotation of our Super Bowl regulars. He's at home in Riverside County in the Inland Empire. Are you in your office up in Orange County right now?
Yeah, I'm in my office in Orange County. I sold the law office. I had a big law office building, and I bought a studio right here in Orange County. So, and then I'll be down at the beach house this weekend. So you want to come by on Sunday? We'd love to see you.
Yeah, I like taking a walk from PB down to Mission Beach. Dave is just a little bit south of the roller coaster. I'm not going to give you his address. Otherwise, everybody's going to stop by and be like, Dave, this is a hot place right on the boardwalk, man.
My wife thinks I sit there because I'm a D-lister, as you know, my 10-year-old son, Miles. He calls me the D-lister. He goes, man, Dad, every once in a while, somebody walks by and recognizes you. It's awesome.
Life on the D list. I certainly would understand that. Hey, Dave Meltzer, it is so great to be with you always. Congratulations on all of your success. And I love what you do, man, to help people all over the place. It's really cool.
Oh, Alex, Browner, and Scott, you guys are amazing. And you made my day. I have absolutely no FOMO now. It's all JOMO now that I got to talk to you guys. The joy of missing out. May everybody rejoice.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And we look forward to having you back real soon.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much.